Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I want to say thank you to Social Media Cowboys for sponsoring this week's episode of the Confidence Through Health podcast. If you need help with a website, if you need social media needs for your business, if you need help with AdWords, SEO, all those things that you know you should be doing, but you are too busy to do or you're too confused about, they are the experts that you need in your corner. If you're interested in launching a podcast, such as mine, they help me edit my podcast and do a fantastic job making sure that all of the technical side of it is handled and we launch a nice, neat, edited podcast episode each week. So I want to thank Social Media Cowboys for their continued sponsorship of the Confidence Through Health podcast. You can find them at socialmediacowboys.com, or you can find them as well with other sponsors at confidencethroughhealth.com. Well, I want to thank you, Chad, for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Absolutely, man.
So one of the things that you're doing as a physical therapist is obviously helping people get better, but you've tapped into a longevity piece of that, which I think is really neat. And anybody in the health world is aware that longevity has been a buzzword for the past, several years.
Sure.
And everybody's trying to find that, like, not just how can I live longer, but how can I live longer and operate better, right? So before we get into all that, though, tell us a little bit about why physical therapy? Like, why is that something that's a passion for you?
That was a good question. Still asking myself that sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't wake up when I was 5 thinking, I want to be a physical therapist.
Right.
It's kind of an evolution over time. I was working with Dad. He built custom homes and we built a house for a therapist. He's who kind of put me on that track. Yeah. And so I was into science and anatomy and biomechanics. Those are things that were kind of really interested me. And I didn't really know what that meant.
Yeah.
Past, grad school, what does that even look like in terms of what could I do with that?
Yeah.
And just kind of right at that time where I was wandering around the campus, wondering like, what's my major and where do I go with it? We happened to get linked up with this guy, and he owned a business. So I saw a different side of, physical therapy and what that looked like for him versus maybe something else that I would learn later, going and shadowing, getting my hours in.
Right.
There was a difference between how the staff PT lived and how the business owner lived.
Oh yeah.
And so I kind of had a front row seat to that in a couple different areas. And, but he's who really kind of quizzed me on, what do you like? What are you doing? You should look into this. Dad knew him better than I did because I was still young at the time. And so Dad just kind of took that message and pushed on it a little bit. Excuse me. And that was a wrap. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the path I chose. We have a lot of conversations now with, aspiring physical therapists to really kind of lay it out for them. Hey,
Right.
what does this really mean?
Yeah.
When you're 22 and you don't know anything about anything, the median salary sounds like a lot of money.
Right.
And it's a lot of school and it costs a lot of money to get there. I'm not sure the opportunity cost is worth it.
Yeah.
At this particular time, but I'm 10 years deep, so there's no going back for me.
Right.
And we need physical therapists. I think physical therapy needs an overhaul, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The education, the implementation, the continuing ed, there's a lot going on in this space, but ultimately I love what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
I love the freedom I've been able to create in my own business and in the way we do things, which looks a lot different than most.
Yeah.
And so, my passion is not physical therapy anymore. It used to be. And I think that was, that's always been right.
Yeah.
But I don't enjoy learning about physical therapy anymore. You know what I mean? I can't get excited about continuing education courses or a new skill. But getting the message out to people about, look, this is how it works. This is how your body works. This is how you get old and be okay about it.
Yeah.
Removing the mystery and uncertainty from the journey of pain relief, that's a mission that I can stay passionate about, because there's just so many myths and misconceptions out there about what
Yeah.
pain is and why do you have it and what should you be doing to get rid of it. And so, that's the things that kind of keeps me up at night and keeps me
Yeah.
juiced and excited now as it relates to physical therapy. It's just my pathway for helping people now.
Right. Well, and I relate to that specifically because as what I do when I'm coaching athletes, especially long distance runners. And I said this to one of them yesterday. I was like, look, the pain is going to come. If you're trying to avoid the pain, you're going to slow down to a point where you're not racing anymore. You're just out there for a jog.
Yeah.
And so it's not a matter of like avoiding the pain. It's a matter of when the pain comes in, it's telling you something.
Yeah.
Either you're not prepared for this race, or you're going too fast for this race, or something it's trying to tell you. And if we learn from that, implement changes in the future, you'll be better prepared for the next race, right?
Yeah.
And I look at what you're trying to do with reading the pain and identifying and like, okay, well, your body's telling you something, right? Like you can either do what I think a lot of people do is like, okay, well, it's painful to do that. I'm going to stop doing that. I don't want to do that anymore. And then you wind up, you just sitting on your couch because your body can't move and do anything anymore, right?
Yeah. We use I just kind of came up with this not that long ago, but it seems to make sense for a lot of people. And so we're kind of leaning into it a little bit. And it's really just understanding, like, if you're going to train, like, life just has rules. It has rules. And life is the playing field.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what the playing field is. That could change all the time, right?
Right.
For some person, the playing field is just manual labor and work. And for somebody else, it's a triathlon or something else. But whatever is on your playing field, there's a certain level of capacity you need to compete with that.
Right.
And so we communicate like, look, every playing field has boundaries. And you can't play the game if you don't know where the boundaries are, or you're going to be constantly getting penalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about like the things that are in your life, your recreations, your work, your fun, your leisure, whatever. That's just what sets the demand, right? But when we're talking about the boundaries, what you really need to understand is like the limits of your own physical capacity and the limitations you have inside your body, like joint restriction, muscle restriction, movement errors, which are usually created by the first two things, the restrictions.
Right.
And if you just know where those are, now you can create some really clear structure around, okay, here's my life, here's what it requires, here's the amount of functional mobility and strength I need to have to stay in bounds.
Yeah.
You can start to really create some structure around what's too much, what's not enough. And then really start to understand pain is the referee. And the referee, and it doesn't matter what the sport is, they're not there to stop the game. The clock does that. And guess what?
Right.
We got a clock and it's called time.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that stops the games when your time runs out. The referee is just there to enforce the rules of the game, right? The ref is there to keep you in play.
Right.
And he's there to let you know when you step out of bounds. And that's all people need to know about pain. It's just a feedback.
Yes.
You can't go there right now. It doesn't mean you can't go there ever. It just means you can't go there right now. And here's the line. This is not pain. This is pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, when we start to lay that out for people, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Well, how do I find the line? Okay. Let me show you how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I avoid the line? Let me show you how to do that. And then there's some other concepts in like your functional strength.
Mm-hmm.
The stronger you are, the more resilient you are, the more times you can step out of bounds without the ref seeing it.
Right.
If you do it, but you're choosing to step out on purpose because you know
Right.
where your boundaries and limitations are. You're pushing the limits.
Right.
And so just kind of reshaping how people think is the first step, and really, really helping people understand how does pain function, what's its purpose, but then how do you use that so you can navigate your way away from it.
Mm-hmm.
We like to use the gym as the tool to expose your flaws. The gym is stable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like running. right? Running's
Right.
not, there's variables.
Right.
There's unknowns.
Yep.
There's speed and there's volume and there's other racers and there's potholes and there's curves. There's so many things,
Yep.
right? Just like any sport, it's too dynamic. Whereas the gym, like you can build so much proficiency there and it's very safe if you do it
Yeah.
correctly. It's just it's so controllable. And
Mhm.
so we like to use the gym like, look, if you have body composition goals, fitness goals, great. That's great. We're not trying to deter people from that, but we are trying to use the gym for a higher purpose. So let's develop
Right.
some longevity here.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, you need to understand how to use the gym to expose your flaws so that when you go out here and do the fun stuff, there are less variables that you
Mhm.
have to account for because we've already accounted for them over here.
Right. Well, and I would assume, knowing what I know and the people that I've talked to and just being in the space, that your people that you see that are in their even in the late 50s, but 60s, 70s, 80s, the biggest issue that you come across is not necessarily that they're not capable of doing something. They don't, they're trying to do something that they shouldn't be doing anymore. It's that they just don't have the muscle to do what they want to do anymore.
Yeah, that's it. And this is always an interesting conversation because I have clients in their 70s who just started weight training in their 70s. And it's been kind of mind-boggling even for me to see the amount of strength and physical change that these clients are getting just training 1 day a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean
Wow.
it's crazy. I mean, I got a 74-year-old client. She's fit. She stayed active.
Mhm.
She hasn't been a sloth. So
Right.
she's had a lot of things working in her favor. But I mean, she came in loaded with fear because she's been hurt with personal trainers and stuff like that. So we started working through some kinks with like functional mobility, starting to
Mhm.
layer that into functional strength. She came in deadlifting like literally a 15 or 20 pound dumbbell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago, she deadlifts 125 pounds. So this
Nice.
is more than her body weight. She weighs about 115, 120,
Yeah.
like 4, 5, 6 sets of six.
Nice.
She's blown away. I'm kind of blown away because it's just once a week that we're
Mhm.
working together. So, it just speaks to like the human body has near infinite capacity to change
Mhm.
up or down. One is just easier to
Right.
do than the other. You quit working out for 3 weeks and you're on the
Yep.
downhill trend very quickly.
Yep.
But it was interesting to me. This really kind of brought things home for me when she said, I didn't know how weak I was.
Ooh.
And then she started to say things like, I didn't really realize like how difficult it was to get on and off the floor.
Mhm.
And this is a 74-year-old who's fit
Right.
by the world standards,
Right.
plays tennis regularly. So still doing the very dynamic things,
Mhm.
but not maintaining that foundation of strength and durability. And that's
Yeah.
what really kind of pushed me mentally around the concept of activity is not the same as purposeful strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
You can be really active and still be on a physical decline, and it's invisible if you're not exposing yourself to things like getting on and off the floor.
Right.
You know what I mean? People just
Yep.
like things just fall out of their lifestyle and they don't think about it. And then one day they're confronted with that thing again. And it's like, oh my gosh, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
But it's because people, one, they're not doing things on purpose. They're
Mhm.
not, and they think activity is strength and conditioning. But
Right. But it's
we
not.
have to
Yeah.
draw, we have to draw a distinction. As a runner, like you can run forever if you
Right.
want. If you stop strength and conditioning, your ability to run will suffer. You'll get injured sooner, you'll get
Mhm.
injured more, but you'll also start to notice like things in the rest of your life. It's like, well, I'm still running. Why is all this other stuff getting so much more challenging?
Right.
And it's because there's a hard separation between what the two things have to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when it comes to longevity, like, it's there's so many pieces of having a quality life, right? Not just living long. We've all seen people like my wife's grandmother passed away earlier this year, just before she hit 100,
Oh, wow.
and probably lived, I would say, the last 4 years of her life pretty much housebound.
Mhm.
The last 6, 8, 9 months were like just in her bed, not moving around.
Yeah.
Like that's sure long life, but quality is the piece that I think everybody wants. And I've had people ask me, they're like, how long do you want to live? And I'll tell them, and they're like, why would you want to live that long? I'm like, well, I plan to be
Yeah.
quality life, not just a
Yeah.
stump sitting in somebody's house.
Yep. Yeah. And
And
this is
that,
this is so hard too,
mhm,
because to do that, you really got to take the long view. I mean,
right,
most people are just trying to get through the day. They're not thinking about how the decisions they're making right now are going to affect their 70s, 80s, 90s, and I think 100s are going to start being the new
yeah,
normal.
yeah,
There are a couple of people in the predictive space who both agree that within the next 10 years, technology in general, both medical technology and technology in general,
mhm,
are going to reach a point that's going to extend your lifespan 20 years, no
yeah,
matter what.
yep,
Like right now, I'm 37, and let's just say I was going to live to be 85.
right,
Well, if I can make it to 47, I'm going to be 105.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And people are going to run out of money, and they're going to run out of function. And
yep,
you can always find new money, but regaining your function at that age is going to be really challenging. And so, more than anything, people need to wake up and pay
yeah,
attention, because just because you can live to 110 does not mean you're going to want to.
right.
You know what I mean? And the
Well, and
quality,
and you added
quality.
that piece in there about the financial side of it too. Is that like let's say you retire at 65, 70, and you haven't been doing a lot of lifting, you haven't been doing a lot of, you may be fit, but you're not quality fit. And all of a sudden you get the opportunity to live to 105 and your money runs out, you got to go back to work.
Dude.
Your body's not going to want to do that at
Yeah,
all.
and listen, there's no laws against it right now, but if you're 90, you're not employable. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean? There's just better candidates in the marketplace. It's going to be super
Yep.
challenging. And the other is like, the truth is, this is kind of getting out in the weeds, but the chances that I see Medicare or like Social Security,
Mhm.
there's
Yep.
zero. I'm not banking on that. The
No.
money, the money's going out a trillion times faster than it's going in.
Yep.
And so we can't even, I don't even think we can reliably think about like, yeah, I'm going to retire at 65. And right now that's okay because people go on Medicare
Right.
and, they start getting these bigger health issues that stack up as they get older, whether it be, chronic preventable disease that's playing
Yep.
out over time,
Right.
or even things like in my space, like joint replacements,
Mhm.
orthopedic surgeries that are really high cost.
Yeah.
On Medicare, that's not a super big financial burden. But when that pool of money runs out and we
Yep.
got people living an extra 20 years,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a massive, massive problem. And
Mhm.
and it's not just gonna be for that person, because the way the government is gonna try to solve that is
Yeah.
gonna be like everything else.
It's yep.
They're gonna take everybody else's money through taxes or something
Right.
else. And so, we're trying to really push like, look, guys, you got to get your house in order, because you're
Right.
going to get way older than you think you are. And you don't want to just add years to your life. You want to add life to your years.
Right.
Like I want to be 109 still kicking it, and then just
Yeah.
find me to,
Yep.
asleep forever one morning.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't want to get to this point where I'm like bedridden, can't move. I'm a burden
Yeah.
to everybody else. That's not going to be me.
Yeah.
We got to find a way to do better than that.
Well, and you mentioned joint replacements. And again, I think and you correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that something that a lot of times, granted, there's the acute injury, the crazy thing that happens,
Sure.
that leads to later degenerative things because, you know, and I had this conversation actually with a doctor who's a client of mine the other day, and he was talking about somebody that came in and was like, I just want to get surgery. And he was like, no, let's not. You, the least amount of times you be cut on, the better. Right.
Oh yeah, dude.
Because you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the non-acute stuff, the degenerative, the just chronic knee pains, shoulder issues, how much of that stuff is preventable if we actually do that strength conditioning piece?
Dude, I don't know if 100% is too strong or not, but that's the first thing my mind goes to.
Right.
Just the body's design, man.
It's crazy, isn't
Dude, whether you
it?
believe we got here through evolution or we got here through an intentional creator, there is no ignoring the fact that it is phenomenally complex
Yep.
and super robust and
Hmm.
incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
Man, it really is. The only reason why it breaks down is because of the way we treat it. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like driving a car and never putting oil in it, and that's what
Yep.
people are doing to their joints.
Yeah.
We see cases of like on image, it looks like this joint really needs to be replaced.
Hmm.
But when you get in and you start to create new space in that joint and you start to create more normal movement patterns through better mobility and strengthening in movement patterns that don't freak the body out,
Hmm.
these people feel normal.
Yeah.
Like you look at their image, and it's like, dude, how are you even getting around?
Right.
But they're fine. And it's just a testament to one, the resilience of the body.
Hmm.
Two, the fact that it can look like a mess on an image and absolutely mean nothing at all. And that's a huge
Right.
problem in the medical marketplace.
Right.
You know, when images were created, they were designed to confirm what you already suspected.
Yeah.
Now they're really just used as the standard for creating a diagnosis. And that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because we got a tremendous amount of research showing like, yeah, we got a bunch of people with funky images, but they feel fine.
Yeah.
So we just can't take those things at face value. They have to match history. They have to
Right.
match mechanism of injury. They have to match your symptoms. I can't tell you how many times I see somebody who has an image and they've been diagnosed based on their image and the symptoms don't match the image. It's like, look, dude, you just not, it's like flipping a light switch on in the kitchen
Yeah.
and, starting your washing machine in the basement. Like, that's not how it's put together. This
Right.
switch turns on that light. Okay. And
Right.
that's how it's always going
Yeah.
to be. That's how the body works. Like these symptoms can't match that thing you got going on. It's anatomically impossible.
Yeah.
And it just creates a real slippery slope and it creates some mental hurdles that
Hmm.
can be challenging to get people past because
Yep.
now they think they're broken
Yep.
because they've seen their insides.
Yeah.
We call them wrinkles on the inside.
Hmm.
Like you got wrinkles on your eyes because you smile a bunch. You gonna quit
Right.
smiling? Probably not. We just got to figure out better ways to match these things up.
Well,
Uh,
and you speak to also the fact that like when somebody hears something from a doctor as a diagnosis, they automatically they're stuck on it. Nope, nope. He told me I'm gonna have to have a knee replacement in 5 years. I don't know how many times I've had people come to me and they're like, I can't run because I gotta do this or that. And I'm like, let's let's work on some strength. Let's do something.
yeah,
And 6 months later, I'm like, let's just jog this 10 meters.
yeah,
And they'll go jog it and they're like, wait, I'm not supposed to run. Like, based on what that said, if you continued that lifestyle, probably would have happened.
sure, yeah. Hey,
And if
even
you
like,
change, your body's going to adjust.
well, yeah, and even it's like, hey, look, okay, you're marking your calendar. And 5 years go by and you're going to sign up for surgery. Good.
Yep.
If you're going to need it, let's just punish your body right now. And if you really
Right.
need it, you can have it in a year.
Yeah.
Chances are, if we just put some work in, you're not going to need it. So,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
I mean, it's like, hey, if he told you needed it in 1 year, would you still do it? It's like,
Right.
okay, yeah, well, let's just work hard for a year.
Yeah.
And if we wear your joint out, go get the surgery.
Yeah. Right.
Joint replacements are great. Some people need them. We're not saying they're the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
I think some people get them a little early. Um, and it's always a question of lifestyle. But this is how we help people. It's like, look, if you can still do whatever you want and you just have to do it with pain, not the right time to have surgery.
Right.
It's never the right time to have surgery until your lifestyle is changing in some dramatic fashion because of the problem you have.
Yeah.
Like you can no longer do the things you enjoy. You can no longer travel. You can no longer be pleasant around your family and you're becoming a burden to many because you got a bad attitude all the time.
Right.
Okay. Now we need to start thinking about, man, how can we add some quality back to your life because it's really taking a hit? Not, I got this pain. It bothers me a little bit every now and then. I can still do what I want. It just hurts and that bothers me. That's not it. Like
Yeah.
joint replacement is serious. I mean, it's saws
Yeah.
and hammers. Okay, look
Yeah.
it up online. That'll let you know if you're ready or not.
Right.
If you look at that surgery and you think, "Oh, I'm not ready for that," you're not ready
Yeah.
because that surgery doesn't look so bad when your lifestyle's a wreck. Because
Yeah.
it's like, bring on the saws and the hammers. I can take it because I need to make a change here.
Mhm.
And maybe we should use that as a fear
Right.
tactic. You really ready?
Right. Well, and
Because
like you said, like if you go, okay, well, let me just hammer this out for a year and try
yeah,
and overcome that. Well, if you do that and you still are still have to have the surgery, your recovery is going to be a heck of a lot better if you're in better shape going into it.
way better off, dude. This is why we have some serious checkpoints around even making referrals
Mhm.
to a specialist. Because, like, let's just say the shoulder.
Right.
Okay, good. Well, if you want to fix the shoulder, you can't look at the shoulder. You got to look at the shoulder and the ribs and the rest of the spine and the hips and the knees and the ankles, especially if you're an active individual.
Yeah.
And if like, okay, if you're, let's just even take it at face value. It's like, look, your shoulder needs X amount of motion.
Mhm.
And if you don't have it, how do you know that it's the anatomy in there that's creating the pain and not just the stress of not having enough motion available to do
Mhm.
the things you're doing every day?
Right.
Okay. But go one step further. Why is that stress in the shoulder like that? And it's because you got other things that aren't working. So until all your joints move normal, which means your body has the opportunity to move normal,
Right.
and you can show me that you can execute a great technique for movement. Okay. If you can't show me those things, I'm not giving you a referral because
Yeah.
you hadn't done the work yet.
Right.
Like you need to make your body move right and you need to make your movement look right. And then if you still have unrelenting pain, yeah, we're probably dealing with some anatomical disruption that if you repaired it, probably going to be in your favor. But now guess
Right.
what? We've resolved the root cause of that issue.
Mhm.
And now when you do have that repaired, the foundation you have already set means you're going to have a better recovery and you're not going to repeat this thing within 3 to 5 years after having it done because
Right.
that's the reality.
Yeah.
Rotator cuffs don't tear by trauma all that often. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's out there. Most people, it's overuse or wear and tear. And
Right.
what that really, you can't overuse anything. Look at marathon runners.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see feats of human durability and strength in some of the like craziest ways. These
Yep.
are
Yeah.
you an ultra guy?
No, I'm not, but I know several that, yeah,
Dude.
I've
Yeah, I
got
mean,
one guy that I
don't,
was talking to the other day. He's like, I'm getting ready to go do 100K. And I'm like, man,
dude, you
you're
cannot
crazy.
overuse the body, but you
Yeah.
can misuse it. And
Right.
that's what people are doing. Wear and tear is misuse. That's all it
Yep.
is. You're not taking care of yourself and you're not moving in ways that allow your body to not create a negative response.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what I mean. We want to set people up that way. It's like,
Mhm.
and chances are you clean up all your joints and you clean up your movement, you probably feel good.
Right.
We've seen that thousands of times at this point. So it's not even a conversation, but
Yeah.
you're exactly right. Even post knee replacement.
Mhm.
I mean, what if we just communicated like this? Hey doc, how long is it going to take me to recover from knee replacement? Probably about a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're going to commit to that 12 months, why don't we commit to this 12 months right now?
Right.
Okay. Because if you can commit to that, because let me tell you, recovering from a total knee replacement, not fun.
Yeah.
It's the worst of all the replacements you can have. It's like, and if you're comfortable committing to that, just commit to this.
Right.
It's just a different kind of not fun, but you're
Yeah.
going to be way better for it at the end of 12 months, even if you still have to have the surgery.
Right.
And that makes it worth all the while.
Yeah.
But I also think, guys like me and you have a little bit of an extra hurdle to overcome because people will take what a medical doctor
Mhm.
or DO says at
Yeah.
face value and never question it.
Right.
Versus, this little old strength coach and this little old PT,
Yep.
what do they know compared to the DO or the
Yeah.
MP? It's like, well, hey, I've devoted my life to movement and mobility, which is what you're trying to regain, by the way.
Right.
And they received, 12 weeks of it in
Right.
college and
Yeah.
talk about it with one out of every 364 patients.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
there's just a mindset out in the marketplace that presents some more challenges
Right.
to good logic and reason.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and when you ask a surgeon their opinion, I mean, they make money by doing surgery. So like,
Sure. Yeah, and I get that. I don't like
not everybody's going to
that.
just go ahead and say, oh yeah, everybody needs surgery. But, I mean, if it
Sure.
looks bad enough and they think they can fix you and they're going to look at you and say, I don't think you're committed enough to be able to put the work in. So
Yeah. And
let's do the surgery.
there are some surgeons who are quick to cut. There are some surgeons who aren't. There's a bell curve on everybody, but
Yeah.
I don't use that argument because people are just going to look at me and be like, well, of course you recommend therapy. That's how you make money.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. But I've at least got like checks and balances
Right.
on how I'm going to get you there.
Yeah.
Versus your image looks bad, you should do it.
Yeah.
That's where it gets problematic. I think the other thing that feeds into that is like our current healthcare setup. It's very easy to stack up evidence that you do need surgery.
Oh yeah.
Medications don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Injections don't work. Physical therapy, which not all is created equal, didn't get you the result you wanted. And maybe you've tried a couple of other conservative things in there
Right.
that just focused on your pain, but not solving the root cause behind the pain.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you've stacked up a lot of evidence that something is going on inside your body that needs to be repaired. And that is a very, very slippery slope.
Yeah.
And that's been our clientele for the last 6 or 7 years. They
Right.
already tried therapy. They already tried chiropractics, meds, injections. A lot of them had already done surgery. And after their period of total rest, and they think, oh, this worked, I feel great. Normal life resumes, and now it starts coming back. It's like, well, yeah, that's because you are solving for the wrong variable.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I think we have a saying: pain is not a medical problem. Pain is a movement problem. And if pain and if movement is the problem, it can't be the medicine. There has to be something different besides movement is medicine. Because you can go to therapy and get a bunch of movement and it doesn't always get better. Or, anyone with a gym membership would be pain free because they're moving a ton. You know what I mean? The guys out working the line at work, tons of movement, incredible amounts of movement, and they still have pain. So there's got to be something more than just prescribing movement to modulate pain. Because that's all most therapy is. Yeah, it's conservative. It's an attempt to bypass medications or injections, but they're just trying to modulate the symptom of pain with movement instead of chemistry.
Right.
But the question that people aren't asking is, okay, your rotator cuff's torn. Okay, you have a disc herniation. Great. How did that get there?
Yeah.
And if you don't solve for that, you're not going to solve the problem to any degree of like longevity or specificity, because I think I just recorded a video. I don't know if I posted it yet, but have you ever heard prior level of function? You ever heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You want to get back to your prior level of function, don't you? Why? Your prior level of function is what got you hurt in the first place.
Right.
but it's this thing that's wedged into like insurance and patient care, and it makes the therapist feel good about what they're doing. But the truth is, the person you were just before you had pain is what got you to this point of pain. You don't want to back up to here, because then you're just in the loop of going round and round in the same pain cycle. You want to get somewhere way back.
Yeah.
Before you had the movement pattern that created the disc bulge, before you had the ankle stiffness and asymmetry that led to the disc bulge. That's where we need to be getting people, but nobody's really drawing a distinction between the source of pain, which could be anatomy, disc, nerve root, meniscus, rotator cuff, the itis, the osis, the whatever. They're not drawing a distinction between that and what created that in the first place. Because if you don't get rid of the things that created it in the first place, it'll just come back. Maybe not today or tomorrow or next week, but next month, next year, next decade, it's coming back.
Well, and so that made me think, because one of the things that I tell a lot of my, especially younger runners, they'll come to me and I say, okay, well, the biggest thing, especially for a long distance person, but even sprinters, because if you know anything about sprinting, you know you're going to hit maximum speed, and then it's just a matter of who loses speed the slowest, right? Who decelerates the slowest is going to be the person that wins, right? And so a big piece of that is having proper form. You're pushing in the right direction. You're not flopping all over the place. And of course, the more tired you get, the more prone you are to flopping all over the place and losing your form because you're not strong enough to hold your form and all that.
Yep.
And so one of the things I do, especially for runners like, say 16 years old, and they've got really bad form, and I'm like, okay, we're going to fix this. We've got to go back to, like, we're not going to fix it in 30 minutes. And they're like, well, why can't we? I'm like, because your body's used to doing this for what, 15 years? You've been walking and running for 15 years. Like, we got to go back to a time before, unless you had an injury that caused a limp, that caused, you were in a boot for 6 months or whatever, that caused instability that now we've got to overcome.
Yep.
But like for a lot of them, it's like, I've never run well. So I got to go back to a place I don't even know.
Yeah.
To then be able to move forward. And I have a fear with where our kids are nowadays when it comes to just the way their body functions, the way the obesity, childhood obesity is, like, you may be saying this to somebody in 20 years and they're going, my body's never acted anywhere close to what you're trying to get it to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like almost teaching it a foreign language.
Yeah.
Although your body knows how to do it.
Sure.
Because it was programmed to do it.
It was in there. So I've been in there. I
You just gotta
hear
get
this all the time. It's just a different version. It's like, oh yeah, man, I've never been flexible. It's like, well, I mean, one, people give too much credence to flexibility, but two, it's like, dude, look, when you were 3, you had normal functional mobility. Okay.
Yeah.
Something's happened between age 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And now that is what making you say that. You can't remember a time when you were flexible.
Right.
But there was a time when you were flexible. You just squandered it sitting in your desk for the last 50 years.
Right.
That's the deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we get runners in, I just tell them, like, look, this is a gross, like, minimization of what you do because you're living in it.
Yeah.
And so running's not our bread and butter, but I know enough to be dangerous. But I'm like, look, dude, it's impossible to have bad form if you run in place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just run in place. Like, you want to know what it should look like? Run in place. You can't heel strike when you run in place. You can't do dumb stuff with your body. You can't circumduct or do all these stupid things with your joints. Just run in place. And then go try to do that out there. And if you can't, I'll come back. I'll give you some drills.
Right.
And then it's like, look, the other thing is, like, you should only have one pattern for running.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have 2 different running forms. Okay.
Right.
Go out and jog barefoot.
Yep.
Okay. Guarantee you it looks different than when you put your big shoe on.
Yep.
So now your brain's like, okay, well, how do I run? Well, what am I supposed to do? It's competing for 2 different techniques. Yep. And so it's like, hey, look, run in place, run barefoot. This gives you a great, like, place for what should you start trying to mimic and model, and then figure out how to do it in a shoe.
Yep.
And obviously, there's ankles and knees and hips and spines and shoulders involved, and there's so much more to do with a runner.
Yeah.
But there's always a simple, there's always the easy button. It's just never easy to execute and revert people back to, how do we make that the new normal? Right.
Well, and it takes that impetus to say, I have to change my lifestyle.
Oh, dude.
And it's not I want to, it's like it really comes around when it's like, I have to, for whatever the reason is, whether it's health related or, like you said, I've had people come to me and they're like, okay, I can't get off the floor and I got grandkids. I want to get on the floor and play with them. Like, what do I need to do to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, get more mobile, whatever it is.
Yep.
And I'm like, and a lot of times, I'm sure you see this too, and it goes back to the muscle and strength issue, is that when I see people that are over 55, guys and girls, whether they're quote fit by the look standard or grossly obese, balance is just completely gone. There's zero balance, and I'm just like, to me, that's a very telling, like, okay, you may look like you have muscles, and obviously you do have muscles because you move around, but you aren't using them at all whether it's a strength issue or anything else. You're just just the basic get me from point A to point B, and that's it.
And balance, I think, is interesting because it's, I view it as like a disuse atrophy type of thing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like just not a lot of opportunity to stand around on one leg and challenge
Right.
your balance,
Right.
And it's a three-part system. You got vision, you got the inner ear, and then you got your joints telling you
Right.
like, yeah, what position am I in space? So you can really layer complexity into balance as your joints start getting stiff. Their feedback mechanism is not what it should be.
Yeah.
And then like it's obvious why, because our eyes are open except for when we're sleeping,
Mhm.
that we just become like hyper trained on using visual as what is zero.
Right.
And then just thinking like, watch kids play. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They spin around with their eyes closed. It's okay to fall down because they're so low to the
Right.
ground anyway.
Right.
Roller coasters,
Mhm.
the county fair, all these things that become like you see an adult spinning around with their eyes closed out in public, and you're like, what's that guy doing? It
Right.
becomes socially unacceptable. It's fine when
Right.
you're
Yeah.
8, but it's not when you're 38.
Right.
And then you wake up one day and you realize, oh man, if I get on that fair ride, I'm going to toss my lunch
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
And just like the ways we maintain balance as kids just happen through natural play,
Right.
that like it starts to become socially unacceptable and just really like unnecessary as you get older. Dude, you couldn't pay me to get on a fair ride right now.
Yeah.
You could not do it. I did that, 5 years ago. We got a kid. It's like, oh, we should take him to the fair.
Yeah.
I hadn't been to a fair since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be so much fun doing it with my kids. First ride, I was miserable for the rest of the time. I was like, I
Yeah.
mean, within like 2 spins with my eyes open, I was like,
Yeah.
close them as hard as you can. Don't look anywhere. And then,
Yeah.
I crack one open and be like, oh,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's just so bad. So balance, that's one of those deals. It's like you have to be intentional about everything.
Yeah.
Man, you want to be intentional about your balance. You really have to be, because there's just not a lot of opportunity for it. Otherwise,
Yep.
and I'm thinking like you could probably make a bunch of money if you created some program that was like, hey, you're going on a trip with your kids and you want it to be the most memorable experience to Disney,
Yeah.
happiest place on earth.
Right.
Uh, Here's your pre-ride program
Right.
to retrain your inner ear so you're not sick the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably a bunch of people that would buy that.
Oh, I bet there would be. Yeah.
I need
Oh my
that
gosh.
program. Somebody needs to create that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, spend like one spin a day in a chair, and every day you add an
Right.
additional spin. By the end
Yep.
of 30 days, you're going to spin 30 times. You're going to be fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's worth trying. See if that actually
Just see if
works.
you can build up the tolerance. Dude, we did like
Like,
the Olympics with a group of friends. It was like
yeah.
all these silly games. The first one was you had to do 10 bat spins and run like 20 yards.
Oh gosh.
There's a bunch of like 35 to 40 year
Yeah.
olds. Dude, it was hysterical.
Oh, I'm
It was
sure.
so bad. And I was like 3 spins in. And I was like, oh boy, this is gonna
Yeah.
be. I mean, people were running sideways and falling
Yep.
down. Yeah, we had to create like human tunnels to keep people out of the flower beds and out of the pond.
Right.
So bad. It's so
Oh.
disorienting to do that.
But I mean, it brings up a big point that, like, you see kids doing that kind of stuff all the time.
Mhm.
And you also see kids having, very little issues,
Yeah.
right? I mean, okay, they may break a bone, right? But like, I would imagine until they get into the sports related stuff, you don't see a lot of kids in there for therapy issues.
Oh no. I mean, under the age of 5, and it's getting younger with like the big pushes into early specialization. You get somebody in gymnastics at 6, and by the
Right.
time they're 9, and it's coinciding with starting school, so they're
Yeah.
already starting to become more sedentary.
Yeah.
Free play is really limited. Their body's parked in the mid-range positions, and they're high volume in these it's not free play anymore.
Right.
It's the same movements over and over and over and over and over and over again, and so they're still challenging their bodies in these dynamic and like very end range type of ways.
Yeah.
But their body is starting to draw up because they're spending all day in the desk, and so it is getting younger. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I mean, before kindergarten, dude, you're just not going to find kids with pain who
Yeah.
haven't, fallen out of a tree and broken something or had
Right.
some type of trauma.
Yeah.
And even their bones don't break like adults do. They're all,
Right.
they get green stick fractures and they heal
Yeah.
in 3 weeks. It's fine.
Yeah.
But, oh, if we could just go back, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh, I know. I know.
But
But that's
even you see culturally,
Mhm.
you see like some of the Asian cultures who deep squat daily. They
Right.
sit on the
Yep.
floor all the time, and they don't have anything like what we've got going on over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
so many different things going on that you can see happening
Mhm.
in the world that prove it. Like, look, this is not an aging problem.
Right.
This is a capacity problem and a don't
Mhm.
use it, you lose it problem.
Right. Right. And that's the biggest thing is that we need to, when it comes to our bodies, we need to still play, not
Mhm.
just like, you know, yeah, yes, we need to do the strength training stuff in the gym. We need to do the cardio stuff for our cardiovascular health. But I mean, we don't play like, I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like y'all got a group together and you played and you had fun and like, but is that going to be something that you do once every 4 years when the Olympics comes around? Right.
I
You know,
hope
and
so. I don't
and
want to do
in
that bat spin anytime soon.
right. But in 4 years, you're all 4 years older and going, yeah, I don't think you want to do that anymore. Let's
Yeah,
just sit down and watch the kids do it,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And I had the unique experience personally where, I blew out my knee when I was 25. I played basketball at a very high level,
Mhm.
got undercut, blew the ACL, MCL, both meniscus.
Whew.
And I was right in the middle of PT school. So the recovery was weird and man, it just lingered. It was probably 18 months and I was still really struggling with some stuff. Had to figure out how to get myself out of that gym
Mhm.
because I was me,
Yeah.
They say you are best suited to serve the person who you once were. I
Right.
mean, a lot of what I'm doing today is because I've had to solve a lot of my own problems. But, I finally got back into basketball. And at that time I was still pretty young.
Mhm.
20s, you're still young. You still got age on your side.
Right.
And I got back to a point where I was playing once or twice a week, very regular, very regular. And I did that until probably, I don't know. We moved to Indiana. My schedule was just weird. I didn't really know anybody, and it's hard to find places to play. And I ended up taking like 2 years off from playing.
Yeah.
And I remember I woke up like 6 months after I had not played basketball or done really anything dynamic like
Mhm.
that. And I was like, man, my body just does not feel good.
Yeah.
It craves that dynamic, motion.
Right.
And I crave competition anyway. So there was
Yeah.
like some other elements packed in there. But
Right.
I could tell, man, when I stopped doing dynamic stuff, my tissues were not dynamic.
Yeah.
The dog back there
Yeah. That's awesome.
he found his tail a couple of days ago. And so
Yeah.
that's his life now.
That's awesome. But no, it's very true. I had an injury recently, I had to sit out for 9 weeks. Um, and it was Achilles. And so it was like, minimal anything
Yeah.
for several of those weeks.
Yeah.
Um, and and yeah, it to see the amount of loss because I was at a high level. I just won a national championship at a master's division, like high level, and just boom, down back to zero almost again. It feels like, and it's just like, and so I get that from the standpoint of like, okay, why would I try if I'm going to get hurt? If I'm going to have something happen, I'm going to have to and restart everything over again. But like you said earlier, I'm looking at that long end, like if I double my life, because I just turned 50, like if I double my life and make 100, everything I've ever known has to happen again, like from a longevity standpoint. Every
Oh,
day
dude.
has
Yeah.
to live again. It's like
It's a
that's a
really
long
interesting
time.
way to look at it. Yeah. Never thought of it like that.
And so I got a long way to go.
Yeah, man.
And like if this starts breaking down and I got to take 9 weeks off or another 9 months off or this and it keeps then it's like, and so like you said, it's like, what did I not do and address that caused the
Yeah.
Achilles injury to happen? And then of course when it happened, I pushed it too far because I was like, it's not that bad. I'm going to keep going. So I know that part that was wrong.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But it's like going back and trying to figure that piece out. And so that's where it's like, okay, now that we got that, it's like, all right, physical therapist, what's driving the chain that weakened the Achilles so much? Because I know it wasn't the Achilles.
Nah, no, Achilles is like probably outside of the IT band, it's probably the thickest, most durable
Mhm.
tissue in the body.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got so much force through it all the time. It usually comes down to stiff ankle.
Mhm.
Stiff ankle creates unstable foot.
Right.
We see this is it's kind of sinister because it can slide by. Take a look at that foot versus the other one. Does
Right.
it still rest in the same position, or is it starting to like trend in that acquired flat foot zone?
Right. Yep.
Acquired flat foot is always secondary to dorsiflexion
Mhm.
shrinking and still challenging the dorsiflexion in a way that over challenges the foot.
Right.
But the Achilles is a simple machine.
Right.
And this is true of all tissues in the body. I just think the Achilles is susceptible to it in a more specific type of way because of the lever it is.
Mhm.
We see it in the patellar tendon as well, but think of like all tissue in the body like duct tape. The
Mhm.
the tensile strength moving in a straight line is incredible.
Yeah.
What happens when you start to add rotation into that? And like how are you gonna rip duct tape?
Right.
You're gonna take it and you're
Take
gonna
it to the
twist it.
side. Yep.
Yeah, and all that tensile strength is now gone, and
Mhm.
that's the Achilles. We see the foot start to collapse and overpronate and roll in
Right.
if the foot's starting to become more unstable, and that's that little twist inside the Achilles, which happens, on the inner side. We'll see a lot of
Mhm.
people getting really hot on the Achilles attachment medially.
Right.
And it's because that portion of the Achilles is getting, a centimeter longer than the outside because of the way the calcaneus is rolling over.
Yeah.
And we're not huge fans of orthotics. We'll
Right.
use them as a tool to help, but really, I mean, you just better motion, correct the foot.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, same thing with like patellar tendonitis. You see the knee start caving in.
Mhm.
This could be runner's knee, jumper's knee, or whatever other label you want to give it. And
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, the kneecap and the leg is designed to move in this straight line, and you got this vector right through
Right.
it because of the way your knees folding in.
Yeah.
So you start adding these rotational or derotational stresses. A lot of things can go sideways. The same for ACL tears.
Yeah.
The non-contact ACL tear most of the time starts with the foot and the
Mhm.
ankle. Ankle runs into a block, foot folds in, knee follows it.
Right.
And when that happens, the cruciate ligaments in the knee unwind. And if you couple that with deceleration,
Yeah.
then it just like what pops
Yep.
that ACL right in half.
Yep.
But it started with that derotation force.
Right.
Yeah, it's just we see like that. It was interesting in the NFL, probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. They started looking at navicular drop
Mhm.
uh, as a mechanism to not recruit somebody
Oh,
because
wow.
because they correlate navicular drop to non-contact ACL tears.
Yeah.
That was
Interesting.
RG3. Remember RG3?
Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Super explosive,
Yep.
terrible jumping mechanics.
Yeah.
And you get into the league and they pump him up with a bunch of extra like strength and force and
Yep.
power, and he gets out on the field and he blows his ACL out.
Yep.
You can see it. Just watch his knees move. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
but the navicular drop, he had it. That might have even been what kind of set in motion,
what started it?
yeah, what started like looking at that. It's like we got
Mhm.
this stud athlete who comes into the league and blows out almost
Right.
immediately.
Yeah.
Start attributing some of the
Uh,
downstream things to that.
yeah. Well, but that just like you know, the NFL, obviously they're spending a ton of money. They want to figure this out, right?
Yep.
We should be doing the same because we only have one life. So we should be doing the same thing. And like they're going, okay, if this is a root cause that's causing these things and we don't want to spend the money on those people, like what's the root cause that's causing your pain? Because
Sure.
don't spend money on that anymore, right? Or time or whatever it is until you address it and get it fixed and
Yep.
figure out a way to do it the right way.
Yeah, and you got to think like the NFL is looking at this from a monetary perspective.
Mhm.
The closest thing we have in our life, like the NFL, is like that team is going to trade that player out because they're no longer
Right.
as valuable as they once were. The
Right.
only thing we can do like that is trade our car. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We are not trading this body in. Like
Right.
there is only one.
Yep.
And yeah, you do have the opportunity now, probably easier than it should be, to trade some parts out.
Right.
But even still, like, look, you got to learn how to live to quit like perpetuating the same problems over and over again.
Yeah.
And the information's out there, that's just part of our mission for helping people make these changes is, one, we have to get them to shift mentally.
Mhm.
Like, we want people to take a 1 degree shift. Well, we got the 1 degree in our logo here.
Nice.
We want them to shift 1 degree and travel forever,
Right.
because the destination is totally different if you just make that small change and
Yep.
run it out for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And so we got to create this mental shift first that can help people remove the uncertainty from their journey and understand, how does the body work?
Yeah.
How does mobility, feed into being able to do or not do? And how do you layer functional strength on top of that to be able to maintain quality of life over long periods of time?
Right.
And it's because, like, look, there's no going back. You cannot start over. You can only start here and do different, move
Right.
from here on out.
Yeah.
And people just need simple strategies, because the information, there's so much information on the internet.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, how many hamstring stretches could you find on YouTube? Oh, joint mobilizations on
Yeah.
YouTube. But they're like, people look for things in isolation, still looking for the quick fix.
Right.
And they just don't understand, like, look, the shift is not doing the stretch to make the symptom go away.
Right.
You need a process of understanding, how do we do things differently so that doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't get rid of your pain quickly. That's not
Sure.
what we're saying. But you can get rid of your pain quickly by addressing the root of why it's there, or you could get rid of it quickly by addressing the pain itself.
Mhm.
And the outcomes are the same in the moment.
Yeah.
But you didn't shift. You haven't done something that, if you travel far enough along that line, that your destination is different. You put yourself on the hamster wheel. We're trying to get people off the hamster wheel.
Right. No, and that's great. And I know one of the things that you're also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're working a little bit more with companies and corporations and trying to help them with their employees and get them, like, sort of on just a bigger scale, trying to get this stuff implemented, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And that's a decision we decided to make within the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for a while. And just in terms of mission and impact, it's better for me to be able to get our message to hundreds or thousands of people at one time,
Right.
rather than one by one.
Yeah.
Also, the nature of what we do and how we do it, it's expensive.
Sure.
It's a little more of an upper level concierge type of service that we've been doing for cash pay for 8 years.
Yeah.
And, so in terms of access and affordability, having the person that, pays you to be employed there, pay us
Mhm.
to help you,
Yeah.
it's just better. It's better for everybody. And,
Right.
and it's put us in a position where we can come in not just as a physical therapist solving this small problem, but come in as physical wellness and
Right.
really start to lean into, our 4 pillars, which are pain, fitness, nutrition, and sleep, and start helping people take tangible steps, easy steps with some structure behind it to help them create that shift.
Yeah.
And then walk alongside them for as long as we possibly can, so they can start to see those results reflected in big ways in their life.
Right.
And it doesn't cost them anything. It's
Right.
so much better to save somebody money than it is to just cost them money.
Oh yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
like, the employer pays us to be there,
Yeah.
but the way we weave our service into their culture saves them a bunch of money on their healthcare claims over periods of time.
Yeah.
And so, it's mission and impact. It's so much better. The vision for the future of our company, it's better. The amount of people we get to help, phenomenally better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
so it's been a good move for sure.
Well, and I've done research on this before and given talks on this before, but as far as, a healthy employee, can increase productivity 30% to 50%, depending on the position they're in, and if the team around them is healthy as well.
Oh yeah.
So
I
like
mean, the
the payback for
people
the
who,
employer is huge.
oh yeah, tremendous. And they're even like, those are tangible like things that you can measure.
Mhm.
Obviously, health claims super
Right.
measurable.
Right.
Absenteeism measurable,
Yep.
productivity measurable, like wellness culture kind of measurable. There's some
Yeah.
other things that are a little more intangible and more difficult to measure, but they're valuable.
Mhm.
Turnover, dude, it costs a bunch of
Yeah.
money to bring somebody on or lose somebody and bring somebody on again.
Right.
And so there are a lot of ways to track that, but the research is so thick on physical health, strength and
Mhm.
conditioning. Like people who work out make more money. Like,
Yeah.
that's not reason enough to get in the gym. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So yeah. I mean, you're right, but it's. I think this is really going to be the change. It's not going to be complete or
Yeah.
comprehensive, but it is going to be a step in the right direction. Direct contracting with employers is going to become more prevalent.
Yeah.
Uh, in ways to help them create better cultures, have better benefits for their people, save money as an organization. I mean,
Yeah.
organizations exist to make money.
Right.
We can't ignore the importance of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to start to strip away some of the power that the big insurance conglomerates have over the healthcare system, and start to create kind of a fresh take on how people access healthcare,
Yeah.
but inside of their workplace. So I think, I don't know that in my lifetime we're going to see healthcare turn into what it really should be.
Yeah.
But I think right now we're just starting to like expose some things and start moving
Mhm.
in the direction that's going to set us up for some great changes.
Yeah.
We're seeing that 1 degree shift right now.
Right.
And I really hope that, over the next 3, 4, 10, 20 decades, I think we're really going to see some big changes happen in
Mhm.
healthcare as a result of that.
Nope, I agree. Well, Chad, I want to thank you for your time. We've gone a little over what we had planned with. It's been great. And how can people get in touch with you if they are, an employer that's like, okay, wait, I want to learn a little bit more about this, or an employee that's saying, hey, I want my boss to talk to this guy.
That's a good question. Uh, Pretty simple. Um, Best thing to do is probably just shoot me an email.
Okay.
And we can even blow this out to people looking for just advice on,
Yeah.
man, I got this thing going on. What should I do? Um, Dr. Chad, DRCHAD at NRG Physio, PHYSIO .co, not .com, .co.
Okay.
Um, and that's a good place for any conversation. I can help you
Cool.
navigate, what's next for you in your personal life. If you work for a company that's got probably 500 employees or more,
Hmm.
we can get in there and go to work and create
Yeah.
some really positive changes for people and for the company. Definitely, we start getting up 1,000 plus.
Hmm.
Uh, it's more difficult. It's not impossible. It's just more challenging, which I'm not afraid of for
Yeah.
companies smaller than 500, especially if we could lump 2 or 3 of them together in one
Right.
area. So there are ways that we creatively solve some of these problems, but
Cool.
happy to still, provide advice for individuals. But if you think your employer would be willing to have a conversation, or if you are that person, we just like to get in. We like to look at the numbers, see if you have a problem with musculoskeletal health spending, and then look at, what would it look like for your company to partner with somebody like Energy?
Hmm.
What would look like a win? What are your goals?
Right.
And then, here's how we could help you accomplish that.
Yeah.
We're small enough still to stay creative and stay nimble in how we can knit our solutions together, which is a great benefit. We don't have this canned cookie cutter thing. It's like, here's what we do, take it or
Right.
leave it. We have things that we offer, but we've got inventory that we
Hmm.
can serve smaller companies in ways that we serve differently for larger ones. Between digital, virtual, or in person, we've got kind of this suite of ways to help people that allow us to be a little more creative in how we do it. But
Yeah.
Dr. Chad at energyphysio.co is the best way to connect.
Awesome. Well, and you said if they have musculoskeletal issues going on, and based on a company that size, with the averages and statistics that we have in our country, like unless they're in Yorba Linda, like they're pretty much, they've got those problems. They just don't know it.
Yeah. And a huge part of our deal there's three groups of people inside every company. One, my mind, just like everybody's body hurts. There's not a percentage. It's all of them.
Right. Yeah.
Right now, they probably all have some ache and pain going on.
Yep.
But there's three groups inside of every employer group. This is probably just a microcosm of the planet in general. There are people who have pain right now and are either actively or passively choosing to not do anything for one reason or the other. There are people in there who are already out in the marketplace looking for or receiving some type of service.
Right.
Okay. And then there are people who maybe don't have pain right now, but they have all those predictive mechanisms that they will stack up into a painful condition if they continue on the path they're on. Right. That's why we do musculoskeletal health screening. It's like, because we can find all those people. Yeah. We can push the inactive people into action. We can take the people who are already out there receiving willy-nilly and bring them back into the fold and control the cost and the quality and the outcome. And then we can take all those people who maybe don't have pain or it's not important to them right now, show them all their indicators and be like, look, here's a simple prevention plan to start moving your body in the right direction before this turns into something you don't want to deal with. Yeah. And if you can incentivize that and just reward your people for doing it, man, you can get to the masses early and recoup a lot just right out of the gate. Wow. And they're out there. I mean, if people tell you their back doesn't hurt, they're lying. Yeah. They come to me with a shoulder pain. I'm like, hey, is your back hurt? They're like, no, it feels pretty good. I'm like, tell me what you mean by pretty good. They're like, well, I wake up in the morning and it's kind of stiff and achy, but it goes away. It's like, so your back. Yeah, I guess my back hurts. Yeah. Right. They're just the people normalize it and they lie to you about it. So gotta ask them a bunch of questions.
Well, and I mean, that in a nutshell is a runner, right?
Oh, 100%.
Because that's what my PT, when I went in and they were like, okay, well, how much is the pain? I'm like, I don't relate to that question. Because if it's pain, I just push through it. So it's like, so she's like teaching me, this is what pain is. Where are you at? And I'm like, okay, I'm like 2. And she's like, okay, so you're probably at like a 6 for a normal person.
Yeah. Maybe the better question for a runner is your body providing you with any feedback right now in the form of pain? Yeah. It's a yes or no. Okay. Yep. So, but I want to thank you so much for being on. It's been great. It's been great to be here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.